Welcome to Refined Resilience. I'm your host, Carrie Hill, and on this podcast, we highlight the small moments that shape our journey toward greatness and remind us that resilience isn't linear. Each episode features stories of perseverance and the little victories that often go unnoticed, illustrating that resilience is about finding strength in everyday life. Well, friends, I am so excited to bring to you literally a queen. I call her Queen Mary. It's Mary Crafts. She's with me here today, and she's just quite simply a living legend, truthfully. As the founder of Culinary Crafts, Utah's largest off-premise catering company and 28-time winner of Best of State, Mary has created thousands of impressive events throughout the state for over 40 years. She is a masterful caterer and businesswoman who served thousands of clients, including amazing A-listers like Oprah Winfrey, Sir Elton John, 2 presidents of the United States, and hundreds of Fortune 500 companies. And during the 1980s and 90s, Mary hosted a cooking show on PBS that established her reputation. I had no idea. That's awesome. Yeah. As a food celebrity in Utah, her involvement in the humanitarian arena, business networks, and education has put her in the spotlight as one of Utah's most influential women. Wow. She's received over 60 awards as a businesswoman and as an empowerment icon, and she truly is an empowerment icon. In 2018, she sold her company to her children and launched Mary Crafts, Inc. as a speaker, author, influencer, podcaster, life coach, fitness guru, and healer. And at age 65, Mary accomplished another of her major life goals when she summited Mount Kilimanjaro. Yeah. She is thrilled to share her hard-won life lessons with others, as only she can, with her badass attitude and loving heart of oneness. And at age 71, life has just begun. Wow. Wow.
She sounds amazing.
I feel so honored, Mary, to have met you. You know, there are a few women in my life over the past year and a half that have become pivotal influencers in my space and inspirations, and you are definitely one of those people. And I know you are that for many, many women. And I just want to start by saying thank you for putting your whole self into the world. All of your passion and your love and your good energy and your desire to heal people. It really is felt by thousands of people. Thank you for being here with me today.
I remember when I was starting out, I kept thinking I needed to find a mentor. And then as life went on and you're having children and trying to balance career, I thought, I just keep looking for that mentor. Where I see you. And in my head, I had it that she was this older woman who was retired, gray hair, probably pulled back in a bun, and in a rocking chair, sitting on her porch, taking the world in. And I'm serious. I looked for her for so long. And really at age 65, I'm still looking for her. And at that point, I'm retiring. I'm thinking, I need some help to know how to transition from this world of career to a world of retirement, facing the fears of what next? Do I matter anymore? Are you invisible? And I kept putting feelers out, and I would search on social media, and I finally realized that at age 65, that this woman was probably 30 years older than me, and that meant she was 95, and she didn't exist.
Yeah.
I'd been looking for someone that really did not exist, because at 95 now, and of course now she'd be 101, there weren't those kind of women entrepreneurs in Utah.
Yeah.
And they just didn't exist that navigated career and balanced family, navigated through divorce and then retirement and all that. And I began to realize that's what I want to be. When I grow up, I want to be a mentor for all those women who are coming.
Yeah.
For someone who made it through and made it out and found a way. And that's what I do now.
Yeah, you do. You are that mentor for sure. And I really appreciate that because you saw the gap that you were seeking, you filled.
Yeah.
Like it was you. Like it was always you that you were looking for, and you created her from, And so what a beautiful thing to see all these years later that you do have this beautiful light and this power for younger women.
I do.
And, one of the things that I'm so impressed with you, one thing out of the myriad of things, Mary, but you make everybody feel, and it's been said before on other podcasts, I know that other people have said this to you, but you do really give people your undivided attention when you are in the room with them. Your hugs show that, your eyes show that, your focus shows that. And for being as successful as you are, for as busy as you are, and for the good work that you're doing in the world, you would still think that you're the only person in the world with Mary Crafts in that moment. For you, Mary, what do those moments mean for you when you have that mentorship crown on and you are in that moment with that person? What does that mean to you?
I can't even describe the feeling that it is. When someone walks into my space or I walk into someone's space, and to be able to see them, truly see them, not for what they're going to give me, not for what I'm going to get from them, not from what it's going to be to take my picture with them and put it up. I see them as just for who they are. And they know.
Yeah.
When I connect, when I look into their eyes, and then I step into their space and hold them. And I have kind of this thing that I do. It's kind of just a mother thing where I put my hand up on the back of their head and just hold them close to my cheek for a moment, just the way that a mother would. And I'm not kidding you. Some of the toughest badass guys, you just feel them kind of like, hi. They just do this melt thing. But particularly women, because we're growing out of that phase of the cat fights and the only way to advance is to step on another woman.
Yeah.
We're growing out of that. But even so, there's a little bit of that fear of like, well, will she like me? Or, will I matter to her? Or does she see me who I really am? To step in and let people know that they are seen is probably the greatest gift I give myself. I just walk away every time like, wasn't that lovely?
But you can feel it when you're with you. Like even just watching an exchange with you and somebody else, you can feel that genuine love as an observer, and I think women we're starving for that connection, for that real love, that genuine, do you see all the things that I am, that I want to be, that I'm trying to do in the world, When you say, Mary, I see you, what does that mean to you for somebody else?
I see past all of the trappings. I don't see your hair or your clothes. I don't see who you've put out on social media that you are. I see your soul. I wish I could describe it to you, but it's truly like looking into someone's very being, more than their heart, more than their mind, their essence of who they truly are. And so it doesn't matter. They don't have to worry about being judged by me, because the part that I see is always so incredibly beautiful. It's just like, come here, can I hold you? Just like so beautiful. And you talked about people mentioning about how that I see them. And it was a real wake-up call for me, because I was the opposite. And to walk into a room and see someone and think, oh, I need to connect with her. And connect meant a lot of different things. Right. Like, of course, when you're in business, you think, oh, she might need catering.
Right.
Or, I bet all of her friends need catering. Or, whatever it was, and I need to talk to her. And, Yet, when you were talking to her, I would look past her.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to her, but really kind of look like sideways, and thinking that no one noticed that I was looking over her ear at who I would talk to next.
Yeah.
Who else is in the room that I need to see and connect with? And when I finally saw that I was looking past people to the next person that would bring me value, but I was missing the value of who I was standing with, it was like one of the biggest aha moments. And I made a decision. I'm never going to do that again. There's so much value in the moment, in the now.
Well, you honed that, because I think everybody feels that. And I think also feeling that energy means that you can learn how to do that yourself. Yeah. You know, when you feel loved, you know how you can learn. Oh, that feels like love.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. I know I want that feeling. I want to give that feeling to somebody else, or I want everybody that meets me to feel that same thing, you know? So it's, what a beautiful way to reset yourself, Mary, in that moment. And I think we do that. You know, you've been in business for a really long time. I mean.
Yeah. I ran Culinary Crafts as the founder and CEO for 35 years.
Yeah.
And then since then, the last 6 years, I've had a new company. And of course you want to market.
Right.
Of course you want to grow your area of influence, because I believe I have something to offer. You want to be out there, but not at the expense of the one. Because I say that's what I'm about.
Yeah.
And usually when I go into a podcast, they asked me to begin with this question, and you didn't, because I think you already knew the answer. They usually ask, is there anything that you would prefer not to talk about? It's like, you know, we bring up your divorce, or like,
yeah.
You know. And you didn't ask that because you already knew.
Well, but I feel the same, Mary. It's like you are who you are because of all of those things that have happened in your life. And I didn't feel the need to ask you to hold back on anything, because you are you.
Why would I?
Yeah.
It's the gift I have to offer to you,
right? To
me, and to all the listeners. It is the gift of vulnerability that I am willing to stand naked in front of you, emotionally, maybe not physically today, maybe later, and spiritually and emotionally and physically, that we stand willing to be that way gives others the permission to do the same.
Well, and I was just thinking about you being in business for such a long time, and how frequently women in business, and maybe this is not, only pertaining to women, but I know that women do this frequently because we do feel scarcity in business, more than men, I think, do sometimes. And so when we're talking to somebody and we are looking past that person to the next, you're already on to the next thing, right? Like so having that kind of oneness, that kind of self, that moment where you can just focus on the one person and who they are, it exponentially grows your opportunity for sales, for connection, because you're coming at that now from a completely different why.
I'm not looking at it, what's in it for me.
Yeah.
What is the best for you?
Right.
And inevitably, whatever is the best for you is automatically the best for me. And the other way is vice versa, that whatever is best for me, truly best for me, not thinking about what my worldly brain thinks, but my eternal brain thinks, whatever's truly best for me is automatically best for you. Because I can tell you, that's not how they set up this place.
Right.
I get to win, but I'm sorry, you have to lose.
Right.
That is not how this place was set up. It just wasn't.
It just wasn't.
And it's not like, okay, well, you win, so I guess I'm losing.
Right.
I may not see it. I may not comprehend how it works, but it doesn't change the fact that that is how it works.
And well, when I called you out of the blue, I just had heard your name like several times, and I didn't really know anything about Mary Crafts, which I hope that anybody who doesn't know Mary or didn't before this podcast knows her and looks her up after this, because when I met you in person, I just talked to you like we were just
We'd been best friends
forever,
Yeah.
you know, and it was just the most
Mary,
beautiful.
hi,
Yes, hi, Mary. You know, we get the hug, the whole thing. And just to sit in that space with you and be able to share with you, Mary, my vision for filling a gap in the world that I saw with single moms, and your response and the conversation that came out of that was so powerful and genuine and really reflective of, I think, your collaborative mindset. And I really appreciated that. And so I want to talk to you about, you know, resilience through collaboration, because you are a very collaborative cheerleader, if you will. And people describe me that, say, you're a cheerleader. You're just always making people feel good about themselves. Yeah. But I think it's, and maybe the same for you, I want people to feel good about themselves. There's nothing inauthentic about my desire to cheerlead other people. It's my joy.
Yeah.
It brings me joy, you know? And so I think there's a lot of power in that collective uplifting, you know, rising tides raise all ships. So I'd love to hear your thoughts and your experiences with collaborative, for lack of a better word, and because the podcast is called Resilient, you know, like collaborative resiliency.
Yeah. I think it is a matter of abundance versus scarcity. That those who live in scarcity believe that there's only a finite amount of anything, and I got to get my share.
Right.
And if I share with you, then that's less for me. It's a crazy way to think when we look at this world around us. That's not how it was created. Now, in parts of the world, we've made it that way. That's not how the natural flow of things, that there truly is enough for all. And so if you don't live that way and you see someone else with something, that means there's none left for you. That's a very, very hard place to live.
Yeah, I'm looking past you to the next person, to the next. Yeah.
And like just this week in my social media feed, this morning, I talked about Courtney Brown. And I love Courtney. Now some might wonder if she works in the same arena that I work, and not really. But I want people to know about Courtney. I want people to follow her. I said, this is how you follow her. This is how you get some daily food. I follow her. You should join. And like the woman that took my headshots this week.
Oh, they're beautiful.
I said, you need to go find her. She's like amazing. She's and all of us, like Kate Strong, and this is so many of us who work in this field. And there's a sense of anybody that I send to Kate then won't come to me.
Right.
And I recently had lunch with 3 of my icon friends, and I could just spend lunch with them every day. We had Tiffany Peterson, we had Sarah Foley, who's the vertical blonde.
I love Sarah.
And we had Jess Gunn and myself. And all 3 of us work in the arena of really helping others lift themselves to be their best self. And so if I shine a light over there, then they might not come over here. And that is such a scarcity thing. I want everyone to be seen. It helps me shine brighter when everyone else shines.
Yeah.
Just think, how much would people turn on social media or anything else or listen to anything if I, Mary Crafts, was the only thing in the feed? Like, maybe we should do that. And then people would get off.
I was going to say, well, we could try
it. but it's the variety that we love.
Right. Yeah.
We don't want to just see, 100 videos on strength training, which is what Jess Gunn does. She's just like a powerhouse.
I know. She's amazing.
She's like 3.2 million followers.
Yeah.
Who does that? But her target is different than mine. Very much so. And so that's the value, is we all bring something new and something different. And I have my favorites that I follow who are icons. I have my favorites that I follow who have maybe like 100 people that they're connected to and 2 or 3 likes a day.
Yeah.
But their feed for me is just as valuable as mine, and as someone who has so many. The things, in fact, I really find that to be the case. Sometimes the people who have nobody following them, are just spewing out wisdom all the time. I love that.
I found that to be the truth as well. Yeah. Do you know, I think one thing that I've learned in PR is that exact principle. I don't care how many followers you have. I want the voice to be aligned with the campaign, the message, the why, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter to me, because if you're invested in the why, you're my tribe. You're the people I want to talk to. And that's all that I care about, you know? So to your point, Mary, I love, you know, this idea that we all have tentacles that reach out, you know, for different parts of us, and other people's tentacles touch. And we all have parts of this puzzle, you know, that we have to bring together to get the whole puzzle. We can't do it all by ourselves.
No. And you wouldn't want to.
Yeah. No.
I have enough to do.
Right. I've seen your calendar. Yeah. I can say that. So, you know, as you're going through business, Mary, and I know that you've shared your origin story a million times about your business, but for me, it was so impactful. So would you mind just recounting the moment that you took those sandwiches to those construction guys, you know, and tell that story about how you really took initiative and got started in a really low point in your life?
You know, I had no intention of being an entrepreneur because I was a girl. And I majored in music and singing and did conducting and piano playing. And unfortunately, I graduated from BYU without my MRS degree. And wow, that was something.
Yeah.
And I had just not, even though my father was a great entrepreneur, I didn't have any intention. I was going to just be a stay-at-home mom like my mom. And when you grew up in the 50s, that's exactly what you were determined to be.
Yeah.
You know, we read books about Nurse Nancy and Dr. John. We didn't read about Dr. Nancy ever.
Yeah.
You know, and there was the fireman, and then there was the homemaker. And so society really tuned us into that there were roles that were very clear cut. And when I graduated, I actually ended up graduating in social work and went to work for the state for the Division of Family Services, and then was engaged, and he broke it off with me and said, you know what, I really think you're wonderful, but I really need really a showpiece, and you're not that. So, you know, I was completely devastated.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Okay, I'm the mud fence. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
And so the next romance that I was involved in, I just jumped head in. 3 months later, we were married.
Wow.
And I don't regret any of the time that I spent with that husband, 28 years, because I would not be who I am if I had not done that. What if I had married my ideal guy? What if he'd been a doctor? You know,
Dr. John.
Dr. John. And I would have been a stay-at-home mom. My life would have looked very different. Not that it would have been a bad life. And I'm not condemning that life at all. But I don't think I ever would have stepped in to truly who I am. And that's why it's so important for us to embrace our vision, our purpose, not someone else's.
Yeah.
And we got pregnant on our honeymoon. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah. When I came home from the honeymoon, I was sure that I was going to get a divorce. That's how bad the honeymoon was.
Wow.
And when I found out that I was pregnant, I wasn't going to be able to go back to that life of the fun single person. I decided I was committed and I was going to stay. And 28 years later, I cannot look back and make judgment calls on whether that was the right or the wrong decision. It just is.
Yeah.
And the lessons that I learned from all of that. And after the birth of my second child, after we'd been married 3 years, I realized that he was never going to be able to really hold down a job or take care of our family. And I looked at the options, Think back this now, 1984, and I could get my own job. I could put my children in daycare or leave them in what I considered an unsafe situation. Or I could divorce him right then. I was way too much of a fear-driven woman to ever think I could do it on my own. Or I could just stay on welfare. And I looked at those choices and I thought, none of those really sound good. There must be option number 4. I just really couldn't think of it. And so I thought, well, I'm going to look at what I can do and stay home. So I taught piano lessons. I taught voice lessons. And pretty soon we started selling cookies and bread and taking my 2 little ones around the neighborhood in a wagon, selling things door to door, and pass out little flyers saying, and I could come and do your birthday party for you. You wouldn't have to have any work. Or I could deliver the rolls for your Sunday dinner, because I love to cook.
Yeah.
And I also love to entertain. So it wasn't just that I was a chef and a cook. I also loved to throw parties.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, maybe I can cater. What do you think about that? And a lot of people say to me, Mary, when you were pulling that little red wagon after your car had been possessed, did you ever dream this is what this is where you'd end up? And I always look at them and say, absolutely. Because if you don't dream it, you can't become it. There's no way you can become it if you don't dream it.
Yeah.
And even now, what I dream now, in fact, I'll probably share that little piece. I've been kind of wrestling with myself from maybe August, which is my birthday, I turned 71, until December. Is it time? Do I just step back? Look at my calendar.
No, please don't.
Do I need to do any of those things? Seriously? Can I just be with John?
Yeah.
My grandchildren, even though they're getting older now.
Right.
And I asked John, I said, what would you like me to do? Would you rather travel more, or should we buy a camping trailer and hit the road? What do you want to do? What does that look like? And he turned to me and he said, do you have more songs inside to sing? I said, I think I do.
Yeah.
And he goes, then sing them, Mary. Sing them. And we'll fly together.
Mary, that's so beautiful.
And I said, okay, here we go. And so I've kind of launched this whole new phase. I'm launching a new part to my company at age 71. Who does such a thing?
You do. It's amazing.
But so now all the lessons that I have learned through my strength training, fitness, wellness, putting it all together. And so many women reach out to me at age 50, 55, 60, 65. And they're like, well, it's really too late for me. And I'm like, oh, no, honey. Or I could never do that.
Right.
I have nothing left to give. I don't have what you have. And they start with the excuses. And I'm like, girlfriend, did you know that those excuses you're carrying around in your tool belt are the number one tool of someone who's filled with fear? I said, let's work on getting rid of the fear. And then let's watch you fly.
Change the tools.
And so that's kind of what my life looked like as I put my nose on the grindstone for the next 30 some odd years, 28 years married in a difficult, very difficult situation. And I look back on those days, and sometimes I look back and I have to let out a big sigh. But sometimes I let out a sigh that looks like this. Look at that. Look where I am, and look what I've accomplished. And every day, that's my purpose, Carrie, is to bring my very best self. And not what maybe the world would look at as my very best self, but truly the best that Mary can be. And I ask myself every morning when I swing and put my feet on the floor and I get ready to stand up, what is your best today? What does that look like? And sometimes I'm like, well, my back is really hurting today. So maybe I won't lift weights. I'll just do cardio today. But most of the time I can see my day.
Yeah.
I can see who's in my day. I think through that calendar, oh, I'm going to be with Carrie today. And what I want her to know more than anything is that I see her. And that I love you. And I don't care what happens to this podcast. I don't care if you ever air it. At least when you are in my presence, you will know that I see your value. And so I decided to put it all together in something. And I'm now I'm in the middle of recording my master class for YouTube that can be somewhere in that 15 to 20 minute kind of episode where you actually see me working with a woman who has stepped forward at age 60 and said, Mary, this is my arm. And I want it to look like yours. And I'm like, okay, let's refine your why and then we'll start. And so we're working on that piece right now. I'm recording all of that. We're going to have it on YouTube. And it's going to be a free masterclass for people who follow me and like my mini training videos on my social channels and who listen to my podcast, because I want them to go hand in hand. I'm not going to teach you just how to get strong at the gym if we haven't dealt on how to be strong in your heart and your mind.
Yeah.
Because for so many years, I was a yo-yo dieter. I'm like, get really committed. I'm going to do this for a week. Look at that. Lost 8 pounds. Oh, this week I'm not very strong, but I'll get back to it. And then you don't. And then next thing you have not just 8 pounds back, you have 10 pounds back. So at age 50, Carrie, I was 284 pounds.
I know. I can't even believe that.
And when I just looked at those photos from my 50th birthday party, I thought, how did I get here? And if I don't know how I got there, how can I walk away?
Oh, and Mary, like so much of that for you, and you know, because you've talked about it before, and because you are helping other women come out of that space, you know, you think about toxic situations. It doesn't have to necessarily be your marriage, but it could be whatever toxic situation you are in, right? How our body really, I mean, the science behind it is obvious, but how your body really holds that toxicity in various ways. Some people lose weight, they don't eat. Some people emotionally eat.
We reacted opposite to the emotional stress.
Yes.
We absolutely did.
Yeah.
But so does everyone.
Yeah.
We reacted in a way that we carried it on our sleeve.
Yeah.
Everyone could look right at me and say, well,
something's going on.
Yeah. Or look at you and say, she's a skeleton.
Yeah.
Well, she's sick. What's wrong with her? You know what I mean? Other people carry it in their hearts.
Yeah.
That's why I look in your eyes.
Yeah, I love that.
Because I see past
because you see
any
it.
of the trappings.
Yeah. Well, and to know, I think to have been in, it's one thing for people to stand up and say, here's how you do things. It's another thing for somebody that says, I literally have lived this life. Yeah. The credibility exponentially gets bigger, right? And so for you, when you talk about weight loss and you talk about toxicity and you talk about letting that go, and the power that came for you, Mary, when you stepped into this space that said, I am going to take a different path than stay in what I've been told I'm supposed to do. I am going to create this new path, and I don't know what I'm going to do yet with everything else, but I'm going to try something different. And watching that journey, you know, looking, I kind of hate this question. If you could go back, what would you tell yourself? I think you know already what you would tell yourself. You'd tell yourself you're a freaking badass. Yep, like quit crying on the floor.
I would tell myself that.
And go, you know, like, why are you crying? But I think in those nuanced moments of ownership, that when we're talking about resilience and toxicity and growth and relationships and weight and health and all the things, it's all about how resilient can we become? And that resiliency impacts every other part of our life. And it just starts with one step, just one. You know, so for you, going back to those moments, Mary, where you were in that toxic relationship and you took ownership of that when you were Nurse Nancy instead of Dr. John, right? And I remember those books. I mean, I still remember being read to, you know, See Jane Run, whatever those books are. You know, I remember my mom reading those.
See Dick
Run. That's right.
Now if you were to say that, you're like, check it out.
Right. Check it out.
If you were to say something to a kid, you want to see a book about Dick running?
New meaning, kids.
Okay, we're
coming back to do. That's right. But I feel like, we are still, like, it's not just your generation. There's still this leftover for women.
Absolutely.
This leftover,
Absolutely.
constant, what role am I supposed to be in? Where am I supposed to fit? And how come I still have to fight to do this? I'm so tired of fighting for the thing that makes me me.
And the rubber band got stretched both ways.
Yeah.
There was the, you really, if you're not a mother and stay-at-home mom, there's something wrong with you.
Right.
And it got stretched this way.
Yeah.
I remember moving into the first house we built and in a cul-de-sac, and the women came out to talk to me, and they said, well, how long will you be working?
Mm.
And knowing my situation, I said, well, probably for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them responded, well, none of us really work.
Mm.
This open-ended thing. And I'm like,
you were like, okay.
I'm like, well, I probably will.
Yeah.
All right, well, I've got to go.
Yeah.
And I went inside and just cried.
Did you lose friends in that period of time?
I didn't
Mary?
really lose friends because I was a very A personality, outgoing type of person. But in other situations, I could have withdrawn.
Mm.
And I have to say, Carrie, I probably did, but I did it differently.
Yeah.
My idea of withdrawing and turning inward and becoming silent was to turn outward and become bigger than life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the people do it lots of different ways.
I feel that, though. That's my path as well. Yeah. No, I don't want to hide it. Let me go big. I want to, and to your point, if you can't dream it, you can't do it. You can't see it. You can't be it. Right. And so to have that moment where you just said, no, I'm going to take this externally and make this a really big thing for me. So I love that story of you looking across the street at the construction guys and thinking they need some lunch, and making sandwiches and being proactive, because I think so much of becoming a resilient soul is proactivity. It's that one step at a time.
It is. And now I look back, I used to say, I know what it is to be resilient because I can put my nose on the grindstone and leave it there until it's bloody. Right. That's resilient.
Yeah. Now, miserable and in pain.
And I wore it like a badge.
Yeah,
on my
we do.
Says, look, I am pain tolerant.
Yeah.
I can get by on 4 hours of sleep a night for 20 years.
Yeah.
Hi, look at me. I can do this. And I thought that represented resilience.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
Mm.
That represented fear.
Mm.
Because I thought all those things would prove to me and others that I was resilient.
Yeah.
And that I was fearless.
The martyr syndrome, right? Yeah.
And when I finally realized that I needed to let go of that and to find the real me, which meant sometimes getting my nose off the grindstone.
Yeah.
And taking care of it and putting a little Neosporin on it and a little Band-Aid and take care of me.
Yeah.
That was resilient. That letting go of fear is the most resilient thing I can do. And those were baby steps for me. I was probably the most wrapped up fear person you've ever met, Carrie, but you would never have seen it on the outside because I looked like a badass.
Yeah.
I could do anything. Get the job at the mirror, she can get it done. But realizing that was just a facade, now can I find the real Mary who is still all those things, but not miserable inside.
Yeah. Yeah. Resilience and joy. I really love that thought-provoking image of being, I'm resilient, and I'm miserable, and I'm in fear, and I'm sad all the time.
Sad all the time. It's like, cry.
But look what I've been through.
Yeah, look what I can do. I can do this, but you can't do that.
Yeah.
And it's just such a fallacy.
Yeah. How did you let go of that? I mean, because I know the book, Unbounded by Fear.
Unbounded.
Thank you.
From sorrow to summit.
From sorrow to summit.
And I just released the audio.
I know. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah,
so
I'm pretty excited.
I didn't know you when you released the initial book on Amazon, right? But I'm so excited for this. And I know that in that book, you do talk about Mount Kilimanjaro and listening to the mountain say, I don't care what you've done.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are you going to do right now? Today? Yeah. And I think when we get hung up in our stories of the things that we've done, the hardships that we've been through, the struggles, and they're real and they have a place, right? But when you really when you unbound yourself from that story.
The cords of fear.
Yeah.
They had such a tight hold on me. I often have to feel like you couldn't breathe. And to begin to cut them one at a time. Yeah. What would this look like if in this one situation I didn't do it out of fear? Like, for example, something as simple and easy as this. At the time, I was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I was a visiting teacher as well as gospel doctrine teacher for 10 years. I mean, I had the list of everything that I had done.
Yeah. And for people that aren't LDS, visiting teaching is a way for the members to visit each other and share messages and do things.
And it's supposed to be very much a caring for the one.
Right.
And the intent of the program to care for the one is so beautiful.
Yeah.
But how it became for me, a person caught up in fear and wrapped up with cords was, all right, it's one more thing to the checklist. And it's like building your own stairway to heaven. Okay, I'm going to do my visiting teaching. I'm going to go to the temple. I'm going to pray twice a day. I'm going to read my scriptures. And if I'm really feeling bad, I'll read twice. And then, I'm going to do this and then do this. And, you just have all this checklist. And you feel like if you get the checklist done, you will have made it.
Yeah.
But the checklist in and of itself has no power to move you.
For anything. I think any checklist in that spiritual realm, right? It's to your point, it's a checklist.
So, about visiting teaching. So I thought one day, the woman who I was caring for, I was visiting teacher, she was in the hospital. She'd come home from having a baby. And I thought, because they called me and said, Mary, remember, I'm going to take her dinners. I'm going to take her and I got it. And I would drop off her dinner and then head back home, check. Did I really care about her?
Yeah.
Did I spend time with her? Did I sit next to her and rock her baby so she could sleep? Did I have any idea of the fears that she had inside? Did I care?
Yeah.
Or was I really only concerned about me because I was so afraid that I wouldn't have enough or time enough for me? And there began to be a shift in me, Carrie. A shift from living out of fear and living for love. And as you begin to make that shift, what you will discover is your actions are probably going to be the same. To the outward person, they're going to look the same. But how they feel on the inside is so drastically different. And the energy that comes with those actions out of love, like, for example, you talked about meeting me, seeing you, looking at you. I could have done the exact same action with you out of fear. I need to connect with Carrie. She's going to be a powerhouse and I need to know her. She needs to see me. And so I'm right here. I could have been looking at you the exact same way, but it would have felt different.
Yeah, the intentionality,
the intention, our motivations. But when I'm there out of love, it feels different.
Yeah.
And I just kind of made a decision in my life. in my early 50s, I want to start living out of love.
Well, and Mary, you are, just stop right there. Like, you know, what I have learned from your story in terms of being resilient is that exact principle, to love. Because when you are focused on shining the light outward, you don't have time or capacity to sit in the sadness and the fear of what's going on in your own life, you know, because you're too busy. And that's not to say that you don't take care of it. That's not to say that you just ignore it because you're busy loving people, you know, but you can, it's amazing how big your bucket can get filled with love and with healing when you are focusing on really being intentional with one person. And then you go home feeling renewed, you know, and now I can tackle these really challenging things that like an hour ago were just overwhelming to me, you know, so really showing up and being present with somebody it does more selfishly or unselfishly for ourselves. It just is for ourselves, right? It elevates us to love somebody else. And so we just stop at 50 and I say, Mary, I've learned so much from you right there. And then you continue on this beautiful resilient journey where now you give love. There's space. You've had this beautiful career. You've done this healing. You're working on your body. Your heart is healing. And now you meet John. And
he's part of the dream.
And he's the dream. You dreamed
that's why I say
it.
never stop dreaming.
Yeah.
Never stop dreaming. Because if you stop dreaming, you might as well just give it up.
That's it. That's right.
There are always things out there.
Yeah.
I look at this year ahead of me. It's going to be the best year of my life.
So exciting. I agree. Yes.
I am just so excited for it. I've never had a year yet that wasn't better than the year before. Yeah. And why is that? Just because I think that. I dream that.
Yeah.
I do want to say one thing about this concept of fear and love.
Okay.
I do a lot of motivational speaking and obviously a lot to women and women's group, but I also do a lot to corporate. And when I first started this, there was this kind of list of words that could not be spoken, like he whose name shall not be said. You know what I mean? And when you walk into a corporate setting, you do not use the word love.
Right.
That was just like big no-no.
Yeah.
And you do not use the word fear. Well, I'm sorry, that's what I'm talking about. And the first time I did it, I could just see the bristling with the management.
Yeah.
You know, just like, we don't talk about that here.
Interesting. And the uncomfortability, right?
Yeah. We talk about being motivated to have more sales. I'm like, I can speak from personal experience of what this concept does to transform a company, a workforce, a staff, greater than anything that you can imagine. When I used to serve people, and I was very good at what I did, but when I did it out of fear, the energy was different. So I was, can you imagine how good I was at catering?
Oh my gosh.
If I was motivated by fear? Because I'm so afraid of messing up. I was so afraid of not being everything she ever dreamed I would be. I was so afraid of what if they didn't pay me? What if I messed up and they didn't pay me and then I wouldn't have any money? All those fears kept me moving forward as being the most incredible caterer ever.
Yeah.
But it was killing me.
Yes.
And it was killing my staff.
Yes. Yes.
And when I finally thought about applying that principle to business, what if I did this out of love? Now, not just love like, I love my job.
Yeah.
But love of self. Because when you truly love yourself, the natural thing is that you turned it outward and you love others. So imagine the person, the client, who had the exact same actions from me, but completely different energy. And I experienced it at age 56. I'd been thinking about it since 50. We were at an event in Salt Lake. I'd been hired by Salt Lake City Mayor Ralph Becker. And they had, I even can't remember, some big client from around the world coming. And they were looking at Salt Lake to host their conference and convention.
Mm-hmm.
And so Ralph said to me, Mary, I want you to serve something like that they've never seen before. I'm like, this sounds like the Olympics when they wanted me to serve stuff. What do you want me to reinvent chocolate? I don't understand. What are you talking about? And he said, you'll come up with something.
Yeah.
And I'm just in the middle of this switching in my life. I thought, what if I serve them love?
Mm.
So I just sat with it. What would it feel like? What would it feel like if you were served love? And I began to ponder what that looked like and felt like. And so I took all the chefs, this is before this was done, out of the back room and put them in the middle of the room. And seated all the seating tables around them. And I put their work tables all out here, and they worked inside, and I worked the room with a microphone. And I'm like, right now the chefs are just getting ready to sear your beef, and I want to tell you a little bit about the beef, where it came from, where the Snake River Farms in Idaho, and I want to tell you about this. And I would stop and I would talk to one of the chefs. So tell me about that. He says, well, we've sous vide this to this exact temperature, but now we want to put a crust on this, and they'd get out these torches. Handheld, and they'd have one in each hand, and they would just, this little flames would come up, and I would laugh, and I'd talk, and I would come around to the tables, and I would talk to them, and how was this, and this. Anyway, at the end of the night, I had the guy who was in charge of this conference deciding whether they were coming. He waved me over, and I went over, and he said, Mary, we're a pretty tough group here. We've been around the world. There isn't anything we haven't eaten. We've probably eaten this food before, but it never tasted like this. And he said, a year from now, I'm not even going to remember this menu, but I'm never going to forget how I felt. I knew that was it, because I pondered how I could love them and what it would be like for them to feel love, to laugh, to share in joy, to break bread together. And I've never been the same since. So I began to think about my clients and not just show up because I was afraid they wouldn't pay me or they might talk bad about me, but to show up because I truly loved them. There was such an amazing shift. And when people now talk about culinary crafts and their staff, and they speak about that. About how when your team showed up, I just let out this big sigh of relief, because
that's so beautiful.
I knew we were going to be taken care of. And so these principles aren't principles for home or on your next, a live retreat in the mountains. These are principles that we live and breathe by, and have the power to change our lives in all circumstances. And they teach us about being resilient. Why? I would come back and serve you again and again. I would get up at 3 a.m. to serve you because I love you. Not because I'm afraid you're not going to pay me or afraid someone might speak bad of me. It's a whole different energy.
Well, and you can feel it just sitting here talking with you. I really love when I've had a lot of guests on, and every time there is truth, right? Every time that there's truth, a deeper truth that's conveyed, I always feel that in my core, and I get little goosebumps about that, and I really, the principles that you're sharing, Mary, love is in and of itself a true principle, regardless of who's, how, right. But to embody that into the one, that power of one in business, in personal life, in relationship, in, in, especially in your work with women. That's a feeling that is deeply resonating with me, because I think women's capacity for that specific thing, the power to love, the power of the one, is so vibrant if we nurture it. And I really value that you created that, cultivated that in not only your business, but then exponentially it went out into the world. And John, you called him with that love, you called him with that, and I love the two of you together. I know I say it on social. I love you guys together. You know, you're so cute.
Me too.
I know that was so fun when you responded. Me too. But I do really feel, because I think when you dream of that type of resiliency, it's you've been resilient at every turn in your life, Mary. Every challenge that you've gone through, you've pivoted in some way to make that exponentially better, you know, in your life. And so when you're trying to do that yourself, like I am, relationships and love and romance and healthy communication and deep resonating love, I dream that for myself. And I love that you dream that for yourself, and it has manifested in that way. And so what a beautiful testament to the power of operating from love always in every aspect of your life to make that a reality. And I really do love the way that he also then supports you in the power of the one to you. And it's tangible. You can see it. So I love you.
I have one more thing I want to say to you.
Yes, I want to hear it. Yes. Yes.
And it's probably what I would say to everyone, but the power of it to you and you alone. That each one of us, including me, every day when we get up, have the opportunity to choose existence in fear and existence in love. And we fear, and sometimes do actions in fear.
Yeah.
Because we don't feel we're enough. Carrie, you are so much more than enough. I see you. I see how your efforts. I see you, what you're doing with women, what you're doing on this podcast, what you're doing with trying to help women step out of divorce poverty, all those things. It's enough. You are enough. I see you.
Thank you, Mary.
You are absolutely a beautiful human.
You're going to make me cry. Thank you so much for that.
Whenever you are in that moment when you feel you're efforting or you feel like there's a tightness, that's fear.
Yeah.
Just say, wait, I remember Mary told me. I'm enough. She told me.
I will. Well, you know, and I really thank you so much for that beautiful compliment, because I do think we don't give ourselves enough credit for being enough exactly how we are. And it's lovely to hear that from other powerhouse women.
Yeah.
You know, even your daughter, I mean, it doesn't matter. Women, we have the opportunity to love ourselves to elevation.
Yeah.
And you do that so well, and I feel that. And so I'm so grateful that is also your experience with me. So thank you so much for that.
When you accomplish everything that's on your list, your worth will not have changed.
I believe that.
It's the same today.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, why not go ahead and love us today?
That's right. Get it done today.
It's like, I don't need to wait, because I'm the same person today as I'm going to be when I accomplish all that.
That's exactly right.
I might as well go ahead and love me now.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. Well, for any women, I shouldn't say for all women that are listening to this podcast right now.
And men.
You
need this as well.
True. That is true. That is true. That's true. But I want that message that was personally delivered to me for you to also hear it, that you are enough, what you have to offer in the world is enough. And it's time. It's time for you to step into who you are and cultivate and create that deep love for yourself and for others in your life.
It's time.
So don't waste just another minute. Send the text, send the message, send the letter, send the email, send the hug, whatever you have to do to embrace love right now. Do that, and it will change your life.
And you've heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again, because it's probably one of the most valuable pieces that I share. And that is, after you have done something, like whether you do a podcast or whether you speak in front of a group or whatever it is, and you have the women come up and just like, so I thank you so much. You just say, I wish I could be like you, blah 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 blah. And the moment a woman says that to me, and I believe I've done this with you,
Mm-hmm.
I take them by the shoulders and look in their eyes and say, whatever you've seen in me already exists in you, or you wouldn't have seen it in me.
Yeah.
If you saw good in me, that's because there's good in you. If you see a woman who's narcissistic and self-centered in me, chances are that's what's in you.
Yeah.
And you can let it go.
Yeah.
You can let that go. All those fears go.
Be
and
unbounded.
Just see the good in each other.
I encourage you also, listeners, to please read Mary's book, listen to the audio version, because there's some really beautiful, beautiful stories and beautiful moments of being seen and seeing and reassessing and reevaluating and doing the hard work of becoming a resilient soul. Mary, thank you so much for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I love you. I appreciate you.
So vulnerable and for sitting there open, letting me just like love on you and share with you.
Oh, I'm the beneficiary. I get to walk away feeling amazing. I hope you do too. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Refined Resilience. We hope you found inspiration in the stories shared and the small moments that remind us all of our strength. Remember, resilience is built not just in the big challenges we face, but in the everyday experiences that shape who we are. A special thanks to our sponsor, Build Then Bless, for making Refined Resilience possible. Until next time, remember, it's the small moments of resilience that make us great.